Just before we begin the video, I'd like to tell you about a free beginner jazz guitar course which I have available for anyone that is new to learning jazz guitar. I've put this jazz guitar course together to break down jazz guitar in a coherent and structured way. There are over 25 4K video lessons and a 40-page downloadable PDF to help you get started. Each module comes with downloadable PDFs, chord diagrams, etudes and studies to help you get started learning the wonderful art of jazz. Hey everyone, in this video I'd like to discuss this guitar, probably the most iconic electric guitar that's ever been made, the Fender Stratocaster. I'd like to share with you a couple of my favourite tones which arguably are a little bit less heard of than what you might associate with the Strat. We all love Mark Knopfler, we all love Jimi Hendrix, all those sounds are great, but in this video I'm hoping to share with you some of arguably perhaps the lesser known sounds that you can get from one of these guitars using basically a free DAW called GarageBand, which comes with any Mac that you have. To mix things up, I've tried to use all the different pickup selections to kind of give you an idea of what the Strat can do. The most common thing or criticism that I hear about this Strat is this back pickup and that it can sound a little bit too thin and a little bit too weak, and while it's not kind of as full and big sounding as a Tele or a Les Paul, I do think there are some uses for it which are sometimes perhaps overlooked. So I'm going to give you some uses for that and obviously all the kind of common sounds that you get on the Strat as well. For all the examples, I used this one Strat, which I've had for a long time. This is my crafted in Japan 62 reissue Stratocaster. The pickups have been changed to GFS pickups, which are fairly inexpensive pickups, I believe, but they sound really good on this guitar. And the saddles have been changed to Graphtec saddles. As you can see, these are black Graphtec saddles. When I was younger, I used to snap strings all the time, and these basically saved me put some money on strings. The only other mod to this guitar is basically the frets. I wore down the original medium frets, which I think came on this guitar, so now there's jumbo frets on this Strat, which is you know, not a big surprise for any Fender player. We like the big kind of train track frets on Fenders. So I think that's it for a couple of the examples. I used my whammy bar, and like I said, all the examples were actually recorded on a free GarageBand DAW, and I didn't use any external amp plugins or anything like that. So let's get on with the sounds. Let me know what you think, and of course let me know if I've missed out any of your favourite sounds in the comments. One of the most iconic and well-known Strat players was the late great Stevie Ray Vaughan. He used the Strat for playing Texas rock and got some great sounds, and lots of people have tried to get close to his sounds. So I'm actually not going for Stevie Ray Vaughan. As I said in the intro, I'm hopefully introducing you to some lesser known sounds and styles, and I'm actually focusing on Stevie Ray's older brother Jimmy Vaughan, who has also been a big Strat player for a long time. I think he occasionally used a Tele. There's a couple of the early Fabulous Thunderbirds albums where he's holding a Telecaster, but at least for the last 30 or 35 years he's been very much associated with the Fender Strat, and of course he's had his own signature Strat sound as well. So let's hear some kind of Jimmy Vaughan style licks, Jimmy Vaughan style influence playing on a Fender Strat, and I'll explain how I get the sounds. What you just heard there was some slow blues playing, all on the back bridge pickup. Jimmy Vaughan exclusively almost uses that all the time. Occasionally he switches to middle and neck. I don't think he ever uses positions 2 and 4, only kind of bridge and middle, I think, for the most part. So that's kind of the sound really. I have a bit of overdrive on, a bit of breakup, but really not much. Most of the sound is heavily coming from using the fingers with this, and using a capo as well. Jimmy's playing is all about kind of coolness, great feel, great articulation, and just amazing kind of phrases that just are straight to the point really. his style is basically influenced by people like Guitar Slim and Clarence Gatemouth Brown, who use a capo rather than play fretted across the fingerboard. And you'll have to try it and let me know what you think, but in my opinion this gives you such a direct blues sound when you use your fingers and use the open strings with a capo on. It gives you such a full, thick, wonderful Strat bridge sound. I do back off the tone somewhat, but it's not, as you can hear, it's not too muddy or too low or anything like that. So that's the first sound. The next style that we're going to look at playing with the Strat is Western Swing. You could say that this has kind of influences of like rockabilly, country, all that kind of early roots American music from the 40s and 50s really. It's, you know, sometimes hard to put an exact genre to pinpoint exactly everything that I am playing. It kind of all somewhat muddles into one sometimes, but I've tried to go for kind of more of a Western Swing vibe because I'm playing over Sugarfoot Rag, which is arguably a Western Swing tune. And what I've done here is I've just used the middle pickup of the Strat. I backed off the tone a little bit as well. And here I'm trying to emulate those kind of early swing players who all used Fender guitars. There's plenty of them. People like Roy Lanham, who used a Jazzmaster, I think. Fums Carlyle used a Fender Jaguar. Jimmy Bryant was obviously a well-known Telecaster player, and Elton Chamberlain, I think that's how you say it, the guy who played guitar in Bob Willis's band, was a known Strat player as well. So I think that they're great at kind of getting those early swing sounds. So let's have a listen to some Western Swing on a Fender Strat. Most of you would probably know that I'm a jazz guitar player, so you've probably heard lots of different jazz videos on this channel. So what I've done is I've obviously kind of demoed the neck pickup, which is the obvious choice for kind of a smoky jazz sound. I've got 11 round wounds on this for anybody that's interested, and I turned the tone back off a little bit, but not too much, and I'm going to play a little bit of Autumn Leaves for you, just to demonstrate a Strat sound. However, I'm also going to switch to position 4, and the obvious kind of sound that you associate with position 4 is that kind of like Mike McCready, Stevie Ray Vaughan, Hendrix type of sound, you know, that kind of thing. But here what I've tried to do is kind of play a little bit of jazz, straight up jazz on it, just so you can kind of hear. So you can hear some of Autumn Leaves played on the neck, then on position 4. There's not that many jazz players that use that sound for jazz, but it does happen sometimes. Not a Strat, but Ted Green sometimes used that sound when he had a humbucker telly. It's not a Strat and it's not exactly like a Strat, but basically I think that he combined, I don't know, maybe 2 single coils to get that kind of out of phase sound, which is not really out of phase, to get a sound which is sometimes similar to this. So those are a few kind of retro style sounds which I like. That's kind of more my thing. However, one thing that I do like is that kind of 80s Strat sound as well. It was used all the time on recordings in the 1980s, and I think it's a great rhythm sound. Position 2, I think on the Strat is a little bit thin, a little bit weedy sometimes, but I think if you're just kind of playing like arpeggios and things like that and using a whammy bar, then, and obviously with some chorus as well, then that kind of 80s rhythm sound I think is one that's kind of worth checking out really. I think that no other guitar can sound quite like it. Obviously you can get PRSs and stuff, and you can kind of, you know, even like a Nashville telly, and you can get them kind of quacky sounds, but they don't exactly sound like a Strat because of the tremolo and a few other things. So yeah, for this one, position 2, a bit of chorus, maybe some reverb, maybe a little bit of delay, and of course some nice 80s chords as well. So let's have a listen to that. The last sound which I'd like to share with you is actually more of a rock sound. Now of course you kind of associate rock playing with like a Les Paul or perhaps a Telecaster, But I think if you kind of, play through the right amp and you EQ it right and you turn the tone down, it's never going to be as fat as a Tele or a Les Paul, but it has a kind of articulation about it and a kind of wobbliness, maybe because of the tremolo, which makes it great for kind of like really kind of cutting lead runs, especially when you use the whammy bar as well. So let's have a listen to a short solo over a progression which you've already heard in this video. So that wraps up my signature Strat sounds. Those are the ones which I like to use and play with whenever I pick a Strat up. But what have I missed? I mean, obviously it's a Strat and there's lots of recordings and lots of sounds which I could have done. Certainly some honourable mentions go to Albert Lee. And I know he used a Music Man guitar, but let's face it, that's basically kind of a Strat sound, isn't it? I wanted to kind of do some chicken picking Albert Lee style stuff, but honestly, I think I need to practice that a little bit more before committing it to video. That's obviously an honourable mention. Perhaps Robert Cray, if you like that Strat sound as well. That's kind of a unique sound. But let me know in the comment section below, what Strat sounds have I missed? And of course, if you did like this video, then please don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this. Thank you for watching.